toxic masculinity.
Okay, CNN is propaganda, comma, director admits.
Yeah. Now this is a TV director over at CNN. You guys have probably all heard this story by now because it is a huge story. If you haven't heard this story,
Somebody was shooting him secretly.
yeah, it's a hidden camera. You haven't heard this story?
No, I didn't.
Oh my! I was gonna say, if you haven't heard this story, where have you been?
I was
Valeria,
in traffic.
where have you been? Okay, so this is a huge story. Apparently, a CNN TV director or technical director has admitted, and he's a Democrat as well. I mean, he's a true believer. He believes in all this crap. So let's watch a little bit of this. This was recorded by somebody over at CNN, and they sent it into Project Veritas. And we know some of the Project Veritas people, darling. When I say something like that and I point to you, you're supposed to verify what I'm saying is accurate.
Yes, we do know.
Thank you. We genuinely know some people over at Project Veritas, great people. And let's watch some of this video. I think you guys will get a kick out of this.
I think we got him through this term. We would always show shots of him jogging, him in aviator shades, and like you paint him as a young geriatric.
We were creating a story there that we didn't know anything about. So that's I think that's propaganda.
I think what we did, we got Trump back. I am 100% going to say it, and I 100% believe it, that if it wasn't for CNN, I don't know that Trump would have got voted out.
Our focus was to get Trump out of office, right? Without saying it, that's what it was, right? So our next thing is going to be for climate change awareness.
Do you think it's going to be just like a lot of like fear, like climate?
Yeah, fear sells. Fear sells. No one ever says those things out loud, but it's obvious.
What is it you do?
Technical director, it's one step down from director.
Why
Yeah.
not?
Valeria goes, it's like 8 minutes. I said, yeah, we're not going to play the whole thing. She goes, why not? Gives us less time to talk. Yeah, I'm not going to play the whole Project Veritas video, but and if you guys want to see it, please go to the Project Veritas YouTube channel or their website and watch the whole video. Totally well worth watching. This guy is fantastic. He's a total lefty, and you buy him a couple of beers, and he will tell you in private what he would never say in public, which is that
What did he say? He said if it wasn't for CNN,
Trump would have been reelected. He thinks CNN helped stop Trump from getting reelected.
no,
Well, Valeria.
no.
The election was totally legitimate and
Totally
fair.
yes.
Sorry, I had to stop Valeria there. I saw something coming that I thought was quite dangerous. It was totally fair. Joe Biden was elected totally fairly and legally. Nothing bad ever happened in 2020. It was totally perfect and everything was perfect. Yeah, so this guy thinks CNN won it for Biden. Yeah, obviously we suspect that there was other things that happened in 2020 which maybe helped Biden get elected that were more important than CNN. But this guy seems to think CNN won it for Biden. But the point really is that he's admitting that CNN is not presenting news anymore. They're presenting propaganda. They're making up news that they think will hurt Trump or hurt Republicans, and that it will
Not
help.
just hurt Trump or hurt about they were it makes them ratings.
It gets them ratings as well.
It before.
Yeah, there's a previous Project Veritas video where a different producer, and I actually met the guy that recorded this video. Fantastic video. Hold on. Is Russian collusion. Okay, Russian collusion. Sorry, I'm looking it up for you guys. There was this other one where this other producer was saying, yeah, actually... oh, man, that's not the video I want. Where this other producer was saying, yeah, all the Russian collusion stuff is just made up.
Yeah,
we just
they were
made
like,
it up.
We're doing the headlines because it's bringing us ratings and people want to watch that.
Right. And then also, they got Van Jones saying the same thing. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I can't can't even find any of these videos. Like they've all been like taken down. Oh, here we go. Here's a Turning Point USA one. This'll probably have it. Oh, this is on Facebook.
Russia this.
Okay, let me play this for you. This is an old one. This is from I think a couple of years ago. Let me play this.
Then why is CNN constantly like Russia this, Russia that?
Because it's ratings.
Because it's ratings?
Our ratings are incredible right now.
But honestly, you think the whole Russia shit is just like bullshit?
Could be bullshit. I mean, it's mostly bullshit right now. Like, we don't have any big giant proof. I just feel like they don't really have it, but they want to keep digging.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the president is probably right to say, like, look, you are witch hunting me. Like, you have no smoking gun. You have no real proof.
And the CEO of CNN said in our internal meeting, he said, good job everybody covering the climate accords, but we're done with it, let's get back to Russia.
We have mics now. Go.
Okay.
What do you want to say?
I don't understand. These people who works for CNN, who knows that all of this is BS.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you can hate Trump, but do you not, and you understand and you see what's going on?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How can you still work there? Or okay, you keep working there, it's your job, but how can you be still like a Democrat?
Yeah.
After all of these things, you work there, you see what they're doing.
Right. Well, I think that to some degree they feel like, and I've heard other people talk about this, Democrats talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they believe in the Democrat thing, the whole Democrat thing. Like, well, hold on, let me finish. They believe in all the Democrat ideas. They believe that black people are oppressed in America. They believe in the white privilege crap. They believe that gay people need to be more advantaged in America. They believe in all of that. They believe all that. They recognize that many of the tactics that they employ in order to push their ideas forward are shady. They're unethical. They're disingenuous. They know they lie. They know they cheat. They know they do all that stuff. But they feel like they're in a go-kart race. I don't know why he's go-kart race. They're in a go-kart race against Republicans. It's one car and one car. And they feel like they've got the better car, that they're the better driver, that it's their race to win. And so, but they know that sometimes the Republicans win anyway, and they don't understand that. So if they go in and they fiddle with our engine a little bit, or they slash a tire or something like that, well, that's okay because they deserve to win anyway. So Democrats know they cheat. They know they're liars. They know they're, a lot of voters I've talked to, they kind of know this stuff. They don't care. They'll argue to the death that what they're doing is fair. But if you get them in an honest moment, they'll say, well, it doesn't really matter because we're right. So they if you get them into a moment where they're actually willing to tell you, and some of them doesn't take a lot. Some of them are pretty willing to tell you anyway. What they really think about stuff, they'll admit, no, we know we cheat. We know we're wrong about this. We know that Trump isn't guilty of this or whatever, but it's okay because we're right in the long run. So that's why they think what they think. Did you want to say something else?
Well, they're like so happy. Oh, we got the Trump out. We got the Trump out. If you won one battle, it doesn't mean that you won a whole war.
No, and if they do win the war, they're going to usher in a dystopia, the likes of which we've never seen on the planet.
They're not going to. There's a lot of stupid people who still support Democrats, but over time,
I'll tell you,
it's going to hurt those same people who voted for Joe Biden.
Unless the Democrats are really able to pull out all the stuff that they want to, pack the court, make DC a state, make Puerto Rico a state, get all the illegal immigrants amnesty and get them voting. Unless they can do all that stuff, which I'm hoping that they cannot do, because if they all do that, we're all screwed. But if they're unable to do all those things, then there's no way that the Democrats will win in the end. And I think the reason they'll never really win in the end is because they're so far off of reality at this point. I was thinking about this the other day. I was talking to Kurt about it. Like, in the 1980s and the 1990s, I think a white person watching TV would see a black person on TV and they wouldn't really think much about it. And a black person would see a white person on TV and they wouldn't think much about it. You'd see an Asian person or a Hispanic and you wouldn't really think all that much about it. In 2021, people talk about this crap all the time now. It's like, oh, we need more representation of black bodies on TV, and this like weird language that they use. And it's like, guys, stop thinking so much about racial stuff. Like we got past this in the 80s and 90s, and now you're regressing, you're going backwards. And it's because leftists live in this false reality. They had dreamed up all these fantasies like how oppressed black people are again. It's like they ran out of reasons to say black people are victims. And because there wasn't really anything left. We'd stopped victimizing black people by the 1980s, I would say. But there were a lot of people who wanted to believe black people were still oppressed so they'd still have something to fight against. So they made up all these little things. And they convinced a lot of people that those things are real oppression. Oh, if you get nervous around a black person who's all tatted up and looks like a thug, well, that means you're a racist. Or maybe it means that you have common sense and you think thugs are the type of people you want to avoid, right? And that's true of white thugs, black thugs, Asian thugs, any kind of thug. Here a thug, there a thug, everywhere a thug. It's an old children's song in America. Anyway, Valeria's very confused. Anyway, the point is they invented all these things for people to say, oh, there's racism here, there's racism there, this is a microaggression, this is subconscious racism and all this kind of stuff. They invented all these things. And they convinced a bunch of college students and people that we were still living in the Jim Crow era. In fact, Biden just mentioned that, oh, we're going back to the Jim Crow era. No, we passed that whole era. We've gotten all the way past a sort of like period of equality, and we're kind of delving into a new era of fantasy reality. Now we live in this bifurcated world where some of us still live in the natural progression from the 80s and 90s, and others of us have split off. Democrats have split off into this fantasy version of reality where they can all still pretend that they're 1960s civil rights protesters, right? They're all basically cosplayers dressing up as 1960s protesters, going around pretending that there's all this injustice, but there just isn't. And so it's really frustrating. You know, we live in a world now in which we have to contend with people who are actually creating laws that don't actually live in reality. They're not creating laws based in fundamental truths about the world, but fundamental misconceptions, maybe intentional misperceptions of the world. But anyway, it gets worse.
Worse where?
Huh?
Where?
I can't understand what you're saying.
Worse in what? What's getting worse?
All right, well, I'm getting there. Here it says, CNN staffer tells Project Veritas that the network played up COVID-19 death toll for ratings. So the same guy in part 2, if you want to watch part 2 of this, he says, actually, let's see here. He says, COVID, gangbusters with ratings. He's like, this is why we constantly have the death toll on the side. He continued making reference to the coronavirus death tracker. Remember the death tracker that suddenly
disappeared next day after inauguration?
Yeah.
I knew that it's gonna happen. I thought they're a little bit smart. They will keep it for 2 weeks and they send Biden beat the virus. But no, they removed it the next day.
Yeah. What Valeria is saying is it wasn't just for ratings. CNN knew that if they kept that stupid death tracker up, it would make Trump look bad and it would help Democrats win the election. And so they kept that death tracker up there. And as soon as Biden was inaugurated, they took the death tracker off the next day.
They should have put the new title, Biden's death tracker, Biden administration COVID death tracker.
And went down to 0 like the first day or something. Mm-hmm. But they just took it off. They didn't want to talk about any deaths as soon as Biden was elected. Do you want to let the cat out or do you want to?
No.
Okay. I think he'll be quiet if you let him out.
Sure.
No, but I think he will.
Okay.
This is like a bet. All right. $100. There is another video. And in this particular video, he's talking about Matt Gaetz. And I want everybody to watch this video because I think this is incredibly relevant to what's going on right now. He basically says, yeah, the Matt Gaetz thing, this is all propaganda. Hey, say hello, Aston. Oh, no, he went away.
Oh no,
Okay, can you define propaganda? Like, I think I know, but like, how is it? What's the mechanism?
If the agenda, say, is to like get like Matt Gaetz right now, he's like this Republican, like he's a problem for the Democratic Party because he's so conservative, right? And he can cause a lot of hiccups in passing of laws and whatnot. So it would be great for the Democratic Party to get him out. So we're going to keep running those stories to keep hurting him and make it so that it can't be buried and like just settled outside of court and just like if we keep pushing that, it's helping us. That's propaganda. It's helping us in some way.
I love that video. I love that Project Veritas put that out. That's like my favorite thing because, I had somebody the other day, somebody that I like, who's a Democrat, and they went ahead and so my friend who's a Democrat, he went ahead and wrote me and he said, look at this Matt Gaetz thing. And he said the thing that all the Democrats are saying right now, which is, Republicans are supporting a child trafficker. Hey, Aston. Republicans are supporting a child trafficker. Matt Gaetz is a child trafficker, right? No, not even a child trafficker, a sex trafficker. They're calling him a sex trafficker. Matt Gaetz is a sex trafficker. Okay, well, first of all, there's a couple of things about this. One, it's not even really clear what the investigation is about specifically and how Matt Gaetz is being investigated, first of all. Secondly, he's not actually been arrested for anything. He's not even been accused of anything. And he absolutely hasn't gone to court and been tried and convicted of anything. But the Democrats and the media, they've accused him, they've arrested him, they've put him in court, they've tried him, and they've convicted him, and he's now in prison, according to the leftist rhetoric. If you were to watch CNN talk about this, the way they talk about it, Matt Gaetz is already in prison. And I think Matt Gaetz should sue all of them for defamation, because the way they're talking about this is not a done deal. This is not set. This is barely even like they don't even know exactly what the investigation is, and yet they're calling him a sex trafficker. So I get people writing me saying, how can you defend Matt Gaetz in his sex trafficking? It's like, well, I can't defend something that he hasn't even been accused of. He's just being labeled that. Okay? How do you defend something that's just being labeled something that there's no evidence for? It's like it's like the schoolyard retort. No, I'm not. So all you can say is, well, no, he isn't. I mean, it's just a blatant lie. It's a difficult thing to refute something that there's no evidence for at all, something that's completely and utterly made up. Because I think that over the years, over the decades, over the centuries, it has been atypical for somebody just to, out of the blue, make up an accusation against somebody or label them something that there's absolutely no evidence for whatsoever, just basically made up out of the blue. Now, with the Matt Gaetz thing, he has a friend who's getting in trouble for some kind of a thing, somebody he knew back in Florida, and because Matt Gaetz knew him, he was somehow part of the investigation. We don't know exactly, specifically how he's involved in the investigation. I think probably some news agencies have a lot of anonymous sources telling them things. But the truth is, we don't know exactly what's going on. We don't know exactly how Matt Gaetz is being accused. But what we do know is that he hasn't been arrested, that he hasn't been tried, and that he hasn't been convicted of anything. So to sit here and accuse him of this stuff is absolute nonsense. And for people to even text me about this and say, oh, what about Matt Gaetz? It's like, come on, you really going to believe this absolute garbage? It's like, I'm embarrassed by people who believe stuff like that, because I think you can't just take the word of reporters anymore on CNN. Everything they produce is propaganda. And this guy is expressing that clearly, and he's on CNN's side. He works for them. He's a Democrat. He loves it. He's not saying it helps them when he talks about Democrats. He's not talking about it helps them when he's talking about CNN. He's saying it helps us. He considers himself part of the propaganda machine. I'm just going to switch it on to Valeria so you guys get a nice, beautiful view of Aston there. That's what people really tune in for. They don't really tune in for the news. or for analysis. They tune in
Here.
to see
Come here.
Aston's tail.
Say hi. Say
Hey, buddy.
hi. Aston. Come here.
There he is. All right. But anyway, it's great to see that kind of stuff gets caught on tape, and then we can expose it here to the world. That not only is CNN pure propaganda in our view, CNN is pure propaganda in their own view, which I just love. Darling,
Yes.
do you have any analysis on this?
No.
Well, that was easy. Moving on. Could you do me a huge favor? Could you read the next headline?
Yes.
That'd be amazing.
Pelosi says she would fight Capitol protesters.
Yeah, did you hear about this?
No.
Oh. Nancy Pelosi said that she would physically fight toxic masculinity. Weekdays, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific.